Meet Tony G, a poker icon and serial entrepreneur known for his antics on the felt like on your bike.
Up and away, come on your bike. On your bike.
Actually rumored to be one of the reasons that got him banned from an entire country, who once left it all behind to pursue a life in politics, only to return to poker once again. Tony G was born in Kaunas, Lithuania on December 17, 1973. As a child, he was known for his unique skills in strategy games. Interestingly, he was once a Rubik's Cube champion. Yeah, that thing you could never even get one-sided match. But his real passion was in chess, which he even went to a special school for. Nowadays, Tony can often be seen enjoying the game with his children and friends wherever he's at, but more on his current ventures later. At 11 years old, the Cold War was raging on, but luckily, Tony managed to escape the communist Soviet Union and have a better chance for life as he moved to Melbourne, Australia. This was easier said than done though, as his mother first left Lithuania when Tony was just 6 years old. She thought he would be right behind her, but as Tony puts it, quote, "I was supposed to follow, but the commies wouldn't let me out." In this photo, they can be seen reunited in Melbourne for the first time in 5 years. Upon arriving in Australia in his adolescence, this is where Tony's journey into the world of entrepreneurship, risk, and gambling would truly start to take off. He describes being expelled from school at year 9, which is, 14 or 15 years old, as he became addicted to betting on horse racing and having to gamble to literally survive. He used side hustles like growing and selling tomatoes, repairing sewing machines, cutting grass, and washing car windows to fuel his bad habits. He knew he was going to lose, yet still wanted to do it anyways, all the time.
Are you a gambling addict?
I was a gambling addict at like 12 years old, yeah, for sure. I was really addicted to horse racing in Australia. And I would just want to bet. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to gamble. I would know I would lose because I couldn't beat racing then, but I just wanted to get money and gamble and play and bet on horses.
While most would see this as a negative, Tony later in life reflects and sees it as a positive, as he explains he was essentially getting it out of his system from a young age and, quote, curing himself, so to speak.
I mean, eventually you just have to cure yourself. One way is by being the system and finding ways how you could win. So like in blackjack, you can learn how to count cards, for example. So you have to go through a whole lot of therapy and knowledge and learning to get on top of it. Then you understand it, it's not so exciting. You're not addicted anymore. Then it's a business, right?
Tony learned he had to beat the house and eventually understood the games where he could actually have an edge, like blackjack, and of course soon to be poker. As we will come to see, Tony does end up having success not just on the felt, but in many poker related companies. His current being Coin Poker, a decentralized crypto friendly site that anyone in the world can play on. In this hand, Tony plays the largest pot ever recorded for $7.75 million, as he has the nut straight in PLO, but is up against a huge draw. Try Coin Poker with my link in the description, and be sure to stay until the end to hear about a special giveaway of 10 free tournament tickets. Now, where did Tony actually start playing poker? Well, he was first introduced while on a family vacation at Phillips Island, a popular tourist destination just a few hours drive from his home in Melbourne. Known for its wildlife and in particular its penguins, he and his family would watch them during the day, then spend the night playing poker together, where Tony quickly caught on and fell in love with the game, which at the time he was around 15 years old.
Like 7-card stud, 5-card draw, and we didn't even have no limit hold'em then, at least in the family. And then in a Crown Casino, we started learning no limit hold'em and other games, and pot limit Omaha, and started learning all the games and playing them just naturally, without too much fuss. Just that was my lifestyle.
But the glory days we know and love of from Tony were still far away. He needed a real bankroll. While working one of his usual jobs of washing car windows on the street, he got his first big shot in life in the most random way possible.
I was just a young kid, just turned 16. I was on the streets washing car windows when the red lights come on, and a South African guy came, but he said, "Well, what are you doing here?" I said, I dropped out, so I haven't got much of a choice. And the guy said, "Well, you shouldn't be on the streets. You should just come work in the office." And it was like Australian mortgage brokers. He was like a mortgage broker, so you can come to the office, send faxes, learn about finance, and doing like an apprenticeship, go to college, and that's what I did, you know. I trusted that guy, and it was just like an old guy from South Africa that was just, you know, that's also an immigrant to Australia, that gave me a shot, and that probably changed my life a lot. So thank you, Bill.
When Tony was 18 years old, he describes playing and beating most cash games in Melbourne casinos. Crown Casino opened when he was 18, and being so skilled and ready for higher stakes, in fact, he was unable to find enough action.
No, Crown opened when I was 18 exactly. So Crown Casino opened and then poker started. I could probably beat most people there when it first started. So it was easy, but there wasn't enough action in it. I had to go to Europe where there was really heavy action and you could really make some serious money.
Thankfully for Tony, this is when online poker was starting to boom, and he was able to continue playing at the stakes he wanted, all from the comfort of his own home. He did, however, go on to attend local college for accounting and finance, working in investment banking upon graduating in his early 20s. At one time, he actually lived in Hong Kong for his job, where he picked up some Cantonese to have stronger relations with colleagues and clients. He played poker there as well, but returned to Melbourne when he finally hit one of his big goals. That is, raising enough startup capital to start investing in tech and information system companies. By the age of 21 and only a few years out of college, Tony had already saved up an impressive $200,000, giving him plenty of opportunities to pursue poker both at the tables and through other ventures. As mentioned earlier, Melbourne wasn't cutting it for live poker. Tony ditched his job and moved to Austria, where he could play some seriously high stakes while supplementing his losses with his online gains. He could play the higher buy-ins with less stress because he was winning online, and as a cherry on top, he had some cash to start investing into companies like Poker News, which we will get into shortly. That said, poker and investing in this case is a hard way to make a good living. Through the several years in Austria, Tony actually ended up going broke multiple times, with some of this even due to games played on trips to Vegas coming back empty-handed. But as we know, Tony is no man to quit. He caught a big break at age 29 when he got second place in a tournament for $44,000. This was money he really needed.
Was this like a hobby at this point, or were you kind of playing poker for money?
I was playing poker for money, yeah. Living in a small flat in Austria, broke. Not much left in life to do. Had to win, and luckily I did have a few wins. And in Austria, the games were very soft. Even someone like me could win, and those people did support me and allow me to play. And I won a few tournaments. Even that WSOP event that I got second was a big result, 44,000 euros. I guess changed my life then in 2002.
Not only this, but Tony details how he found a less skilled business owner to play heads up and ended up, quote, cleaning him out.
As you say, in Austria broke, and as well, it was like I found a Italian guy to play heads up for like 72 hours and was able to clean him out to get a nice bankroll together.
Now back to those risky investments. At 28 years old, little did he know one specific opportunity would change his life forever. That is founding and building PokerNews.com to what it is today, poker's biggest source of news, as well as live reporting on events such as the WSOP. As he looks back on it, by 33 years old and after purchasing the domain for a mere $8,000, this led to making an inconceivable amount of money per month, even in today's time.
So the first bit of money I invested in Poker News, like about $8,000 in 2001, and we built it out. We started making $2 million a month revenue from affiliates. And I was good at making deals, go and see the owners, have a good chat, have a drink, make a good deal. That was the way it was going.
This was so much, in fact, he actually later won a tournament for nearly $500,000 and just decided to donate all of the winnings to charities. This was just the beginning of Tony's big tournament wins and philanthropic efforts. From here, Tony had quite the healthy bankroll, which he is proud to say started from poker.
Poker News was built from money from winning in poker. So that's pretty cool.
After playing many other tournaments and cash games worldwide and seeing much success, Tony became a sponsored pro for Party Poker at the age of 37. By this time, Tony was known as one of the bad boys of poker, which included rivals like Phil Hellmuth, the poker brat, Mike Midasau the Mouth, and David Devilfish Olliott, all of which would end up in unforgettable hands versus Tony, but the most controversial coming from Hellmuth. Here, Tony and Phil are playing a cash game, and Tony has a double straddle on. Action folds around to Hellmuth, who's in the big blind and has a strong hand. Ace Jack, so he raises.
All right, I opened for the pot.
Pots it.
And you looked, right?
Well, I think I looked. Allegedly, I looked.
Tony.
I'm all in.
Pot limit, brah.
Without looking?
Without looking.
Pretty sure he looked.
While Tony is repeatedly saying he hasn't looked at his cards, he does in fact look at them and discovers he has a monster, Ace-King suited, completely dominating Phil. Tony puts Phil all in and the following pursues.
Hellmuth now facing a raise and an angle shot.
It's hard to believe that you always have a hand against me.
I'm not looking. I haven't looked. I don't care. I know it's a random hand, and I got a random hand.
Wow, all that talking makes me think he's strong. I was for sure going to call before that.
15 on top, Tony.
He's saying he hasn't looked, though.
He most certainly looked. Did no one see him?
He's saying he didn't look.
Yeah, you wouldn't lie, Tony, would you?
I wouldn't lie. You can check my hand if you want. You can tell him the truth.
You didn't look at either card.
I haven't looked.
You promise?
Ask Joe. I mean, I haven't
I
looked.
can't say anything, but
I'm not going to look.
that's between you and Phil.
He says he hasn't looked. He hasn't looked.
I didn't
Do you believe him? Yeah. He said he hasn't looked. Only Joe looked.
Did you look at your cards at all? I mean, it's...
Look, the people at home, no, I haven't looked. Joe's looked at my
if you
hand.
haven't looked, it's kind of an easy decision for me here.
We can run it 10 times as well.
Well, if you haven't looked, I guess I'll just move in.
Right.
Phil ships and Tony calls.
All right, you're close. You're up there.
Oh, you lied.
Of course I lied. It's poker, Phil.
Our final river, Phil's gonna need a 10. It's a jack.
Whoa, you got there.
That's not cool.
No, he didn't.
No, sorry. I was just joking, Phil. Did you believe me again?
After Phil ends up losing all 3 runouts, he leaves the game, leaving us with one of Tony's legendary sayings, "Of course I lied, it's poker, Phil." Some fans loved this, while others hated it and saw it as an angle shoot. This sort of behavior is really where Tony G's reputation has stemmed from. Very divisive for his antics and words at the poker table. But if you thought that was bad, you haven't seen anything yet. In the 2006 Intercontinental Poker Championship, Tony G ends up all in preflop with Ace Deuce versus King Jack ahead of Ralph Perry, leaving us with one of the most memorable moments in poker history.
I call. I want to play with him. I got a weak hand, though. I'm still calling if you raise, unless you go all in. I might still call if you go all in. How much
Ralph
have you
Perry
got?
might raise here. He's got King Jack offsuit.
How much more? 80 more? I'm all in.
All in.
All in. You wanna do this? Do this properly. Yeah. What do you think I am? I'm here to give my chips away to you.
Now, in this instance, Tony G's playing brilliantly. And Ralph Perry calls. Tony G got to Ralph Perry.
You play very well. You play very, very well.
I cannot see Ralph Perry calling anybody else in this situation.
You're a champion. Send you back to Russia.
And the flop? Pair of deuces now for Tony
Ace
G,
deuce
and Ralph
against
Perry
King
is
Jack.
in trouble.
Drawing semi-dead on the flop. Putting all his money in with King Jack calling. This is not someone to learn from.
Ralph Perry needs a king or a jack.
Seven on the
from
turn.
him. Pair the board, baby.
Ralph
Teach
Perry
him a good lesson here.
is down in the river. Needs a king or a jack.
Yeah! Yeah, baby! Come on, Russian, get out. It's time to go. Yeah! Look at this. Look how he's doing. Look how he's playing. Look how ugly this is. You're a professional player and I can do this to you. You're a terrible player. This is disgraceful. Bring the Russians on. Bring more Russians on. I'm here to get them all. You play that as bad as you can. Your career is finished. You are gone. 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 Feel the power. You feel my power, baby? Feel my power.
I think Tony G is speaking more like a Lithuanian than an Australian right now.
I got you covered.
Tony G could single-handedly reignite the Cold War.
Got you covered like a baby. Up and away. Up and away. Come on. On your bike. On your bike.
Despite the assault, Ralph Perry taking the high road.
He's in shock.
From this hand, quote, "on your bike" would become Tony G's signature catchphrase, just as "hasta la vista, baby" is to Arnold Schwarzenegger. We'd see it used in party poker marketing at the time and for over a decade later, even to this day. These moments are what Tony would describe as having heart and really getting entranced into the game and playing off the momentum. This same energy and spirit can come and go when needed. Here he details the time he won an over $5 million pot, his largest ever, which was actually in a private game in Russia.
I mean, how do you keep calm when you're sitting at a table about to be $5 million richer, which you know will change your life forever unless you give it to charity? But like, how do you do that? Because it's real. It's not like you're already worth 20 and it's an extra couple. I mean, it's real.
It's like progression. You know, the game might start much less and then it builds up, and at the end of the night you have a super big pot that's like can be life changing. And it's we all ran it once. It's important to win that pot there and there. And I was actually behind on the flop, like a nut flush draw, and it came in, and you know, as I say, Bob's your uncle. Fine. You move forward, but you can also lose those pots, and it can be heartbreaking, and there's been a lot of those too in my life, right?
Unsurprisingly, Poker News was just the start of Tony's entrepreneurial journey. After his party poker sponsorship, Tony started Tony Bet, his very own online site and gaming company that provided sports betting and more, which he ended up selling several years later for $6 million. He also started his own resort called Tony Resort, which is still up and running to this day, where Tony even has a meeting room named after himself, calling it Tony G Hall. And as such a poker advocate, he's gotta have a dedicated poker room, right? Even the other tables are designed to look like poker tables. Just amazing. If this video gets 10,000 likes, I will make it my mission to personally travel to Lithuania and play poker at that table. On a more serious note, Tony has opened the hotel up to those looking to escape Ukraine during the current war. His philanthropic efforts go beyond money, as it's reported he was able to house 300 children refugees. While Tony's fortune from poker and business rose higher and higher, he began not just investing in businesses, but also people. He staked poker players, or in more simple terms to those unfamiliar, this means he would pay for their buy-ins so that they could play larger games than they otherwise would. The player would benefit from this as they get the opportunity to play higher stakes with less risk, as well as Tony, who would get a part of the winnings if the player won. Famously, two stand out: Isildur 1 and Jungle Man, both who are still around to this day. Isildur 1 is an online legend whose identity was a secret for years. Here, Tony once denied answering probing questions about him to protect his identity.
Once and for all, is it Victor Bloom?
We've made a pact with the gentleman that we're not going to disclose his identification.
Tony had an undeniable eye for talent, with Isildur 1 still competing at the highest stakes in poker, and Jungle Man Dan Cates remaining a prominent figure in the poker world for a long time. He is known as a highly successful cash game and tournament player, and is famously still owed money from Tom Juan. But that's for an entire other video you can watch after this one. Outside of poker and people, Tony also invests in things he simply likes. That is basketball. Yep, that's right. This man is literally and figuratively a baller. In 2010, he essentially bought his way into the professional level as he sponsored the Lithuanian Basketball Federation for $500,000. That is the amount it took to pay the team's application fee, giving them a wild card entry into the FIBA World Championship. Although the team did not initially qualify, this investment from Tony made it so they could play. This was at the time Tony was also starting Tony Bet, so he branded the team's jerseys with the logo. With his contribution, Tony got to be the general manager of the team for 3 years, which sounds absurd when saying out loud, even getting to live in the Olympic Village in London.
Talking to Tony in London. How are you, Tony?
I'm good. So this is the bed I sleep in, my bedroom.
Yeah, I mean, for some people, they don't know what the hell you are doing in London with the Lithuanian basketball team. A lot of people know. Tell me, what are you doing there with them?
I'm the head of the team. Got to sort out all the sort of minor things with officials, with FIBA conflicts, to try to improve our chances. Make sure the players have whatever they need, and and also just enjoy myself.
A bucket list item many people will never get to cross off. To top things off, Lithuania even ended up winning a bronze medal. As Tony explains here while living it up in the Olympic Village, he never likes to stay in one venture for too long.
It's the last one, you know. I've announced that I'm going to be stepping away after this, and I've seen enough. I've really enjoyed it, but I'm going to be looking for other sort of things to do in life. I don't want to be stuck in one place, and I'm looking forward to playing more poker.
Once leaving basketball, he became heavily involved in crypto, where his interests would continue to bloom for many years to come, and where he'd inevitably see his biggest opportunities. One small side quest came when one of Tony's projects sponsored the Dallas Mavs Stadium, leading Tony to a three-point shootout contest with a little well-known basketball team owner and entrepreneur named Mark Cuban. Here Tony recalls the legendary night where the two bet 1 million lim token per shot, which converts to about $20,000.
We actually shot hoops with Mike Cuban. I took a jet. I was actually there at the Bahamas and then visiting Richard Branson on Necker Island. We kind of had a few shots, and we bet 1 million limpos per shot. And by the way, he still hasn't paid me, so he owes me 2 million lim because I beat him at three-point shootout. You know, he lost a net of 2 million lim, and I haven't been paid. So Mike Cuban, send me the 2 million lim. You remember that you lost it, and it's time to pay. It's unbelievable. I'm actually a very good three-point shooter. You know, I was once an owner of a Lithuanian team in Vilnius, and I beat the whole team in three-point shootouts. I'm a decent three-point shooter, and I definitely beat Mark Cuban, re-recorded on video, even in the NBA.
At this point, Tony is 41 years old and has lived it up. Mark Cuban owes him money, and Tony still has plenty of time to continue living it up. He's also crushing poker tournaments here and there when he feels like it, and can easily get invited to any cash game he wants. He is basically printing money with his investments in businesses. But this is when Tony makes an unexpected and shocking decision that would change the trajectory of his life forever. Entering politics? Tony decides to run as one of the 15 members of the European Parliament from Lithuania, and well, he wins! He was already a well-known figure in Lithuania due to his poker career, business ventures, and outspoken personality. His public image as a successful entrepreneur and sportsman were big contributing factors to his appeal among voters. Tony ran on promoting economic growth and transparency. This really resonated with voters. As expected, Tony's several years in politics wouldn't come without controversy. The biggest, of course, when he was put on Vladimir Putin's blacklist. Tony was banned from entering Russia. The move was seen as a direct response to his outspoken criticism of Russian policies and trolling or making fun of Russia in court, as we'll see in the upcoming clip. For some context, Tony's saying, quote, "This video captured probably contributed. The whole hall laughed at the Russian embassy employee, but I'm not sorry for the propagandists. I feel sorry for the ordinary Russian people who are drowning in darkness and do not have access to objective information."
I guess that makes us different in the EU because we welcome everybody, as Russia has banned a lot of our MEPs from coming in, and Papas Australia, who was here, is actually banned to even go and speak at any conferences in Russia. So that is the fundamental difference in our rights. The song from Lithuania was actually from the 2000 Olympic Games, from basketball, where Lithuania won the bronze medal in basketball, being a country of 3 million people. So thank you very much for noting that. Being clean as well, in the way we compete.
Tony responded to the ban by saying, quote, "Well, what will you do? That's the price of politics." So it really does all come full circle, doesn't it? From talking trash at the poker table to Russian players, to the esteemed courts to Russian representatives. Tony detailing since beating Ralph Perry, he has, quote, "been telling plenty of Russian players to get on their bikes. It seems they have had enough," quote. Hinting this past history likely played a part as well. Despite this dislike for Russian politics, Tony was able to separate it from his personal feelings, as he still added to his philanthropic efforts when he he won a poker tournament in Russia years earlier and once again decided to donate his prize money. Quote, after winning the Russian Poker Championship in Moscow in 2007, I donated all of my prize money of $250,000 to a Russian special needs orphanage. I personally supervised the renovations the money was used for. Now with that fun out of the way, let's talk about the other positive impact Tony left as a politician. Starting with crypto. In just 2018, he was advocating for blockchain's use in front of other politicians and even encouraging them to buy Bitcoin.
And I'm sure a lot of us politicians probably haven't got any Bitcoins at the moment. And we're trying to make laws for something that we don't really know and understand. So I would suggest everyone to get some Bitcoins and really learn about the system, because it's an evolution. It's a huge leap forward, and it's a huge opportunity.
Now imagine they took Tony's advice here and didn't, what I'm assuming they did, just pass him off as some maniac that says on your bike to people. At that time, the price of one Bitcoin was around $6,400, and at the time of this video, one Bitcoin is around $60,000. So worth about 10x, it's safe to say they could have done very well. Tony G has clearly supported crypto ever since. From then and until today, he has been involved in countless projects. Who knows how much Bitcoin Tony owns himself and has sold by now, but I am sure it has greatly contributed to his massive wealth. I mean, look at this jet. It's bigger than my entire apartment. Another proud accomplishment Tony took from his days in politics was advocating for children to learn code and development. 4 years in a row, he put on an entrepreneurship event called #Switch that took place in the Baltics, growing it year by year. After about 4 years in, and at the age of 47, Tony felt he had contributed enough to politics and he walked away. Here is his official retirement announcement, and from a more recent interview, he reflects on what he is most proud of, as just briefly mentioned.
After having success and being the founder of Poker News and the creator of Poker News, it kind of gave me a lot of energy, and I felt that I had to give something back. Why not put yourself up for elections in the European Parliament and make some good things happen? Did a lot of things that makes me proud even now. Thousands of buses of children, taught them how to code, taught them how to believe in themselves. I'm proud to have built a lot of good things here and having been in politics.
When Tony left politics, he returned to poker with a bang, as he placed first place in not one, but 2 high rollers for over $1.5 million. This said, the return to poker was indeed slow. Many online articles questioned where Tony had gone. Even on his own FAQ page, you can see this question posed. Quote, what happened to Tony G? And the answer? Well, nothing crazy. Quote, Tony's still alive and kicking. But in years later, he did jump back on the horse, appearing in many televised games. Specifically, he has shown lots of love to Triton Poker, where he has played on live cash game streams and made his old friends like Jungle feel his power.
Probably if you raise, you're gonna get me off this one. But you have to have the heart to raise it, and raise it big. Don't just call. Calling is stupid.
Pocket aces.
I know I can't win. Bring a scary card. Bring like a 5 of hearts, 6 of hearts, 7 of hearts. Bring a scary card. Hearts. Heart. All in.
Call.
4.
You have a 4?
Of course.
You have a 4?
I have a 4. I'm the best. What do you think I play with? Give me the money. Bring him $1 million.
Slowly but steadily, Tony G has come back into poker, but we certainly have seen his antics dialed way back. He has a more calm demeanor, which I am sure just comes natural with age and the lesser need to entertain, but we are sometimes lucky enough to see it return. For example, when he was on this live streamed cash game and was put in a tough spot with aces versus Nick Airball, Tony went off.
And he lays it down.
Fucking stinks.
Wow. And of course, Airball has
Folded
to show.
aces. Fucking stinks. That's like a fucking setup hand. That's like fucking unbelievable. That's just not normal. I folded aces. That's like fucking sick. Okay. I quit. I pay. I quit. It's okay. I quit. I pay.
On your bike! On your bike, Tony! You and your aces! Back to Santa Monica!
Wow.
Despite Airball needling Tony with On Your Bike, Tony Tony was the real winner here as he came back with a cool head and ended a winner for over $300,000, not to mention the great fold. Overall, I see Tony G as one of, if not the most entertaining players in the history of poker and a real joy and laugh to watch, as you never know what to expect. He is polarizing. You either love him or hate him, and there's not much in between. He embodies the idea of make poker fun, something he has said time and time again. Tony has lived a life larger than most can imagine. He gives much of his credit and success to Australia, as he was able to get out of Lithuania when he did. Today, Tony can often be seen with his signature thumbs up pose, spending time with his large family of 2 sons and 3 daughters. Along with this, he has never taken his health more serious. Poker will always be there, but it is never a priority, which I think a lot of poker players can relate to. If you made it this far, be sure to subscribe and comment #TonyGPoker and let me know something you liked about the video. 10 lucky comments will win a $50 tournament ticket, later announced on Coin Poker's Twitter page.
There's a few, but yeah, there's no one quite like me, I reckon.